Alright, so this is now version 12, and I'm proud of the latest version. I think it's designed pretty well. Alright, so some of the things I took into consideration is uniform thickness throughout, so it could injection mold very nicely. It's much more easily seen if we cut it down the middle. So let me cut it down. Alright. So there's a cross section. There's so the standard thread on the top I didn't touch because from the 3D prints it goes on pretty good and it locks on the inner surface, so I didn't touch that geometry at all. Here it's a rib. This is gonna flow in and out very nicely. There's gonna be no voids in the middle, and this provides enough strength so that this O-ring could push up on the top and it's fine. So the way this works is it's being threaded up and it's going to push up against this 2mm diameter O-ring. When I was prototyping, I tested a 1mm O-ring and it didn't work very well. I think it needs at least a little bit more meat of rubber for it to compress and create two contact surfaces that could create a proper seal. As you can probably guess, creating the right geometry for this thing to work was very tricky because the buffer chamber red has to slide up past the bottom lip of the processing chamber, but it also has to properly hold the O-ring so it doesn't slide down, and at the same time it can't ramp up and like open the threads enough. I don't know if you could imagine that, but I was trying not to. So as you push up, technically a rolling force could happen of the red on the orange. The orange O-ring could roll a little bit, and what it could actually do is it could torque open the buffer chamber against the threads, and I had to make the threads kind of skinnier but still grab onto the proper threads on the processing chamber. But because they're like this, I can make the wall kind of separate out, and I did that to avoid capillary uptake action. So there's enough space here so that the surface tension of the water as it pulls it up, it's that force is not enough to counteract between the gravitational force of the water, so it'll just pull up slightly, but it won't go all the way up, and so there's less chance of the water from gravity and just mixing, splashing all the way up there. So I was trying to avoid capillary reaction because I didn't want to test the seal, just give it unnecessary action. I modeled the mesh very accurately. That's what is that? That's it's a wire diameter of 0.016 inches, and the spacing between them, like if you can imagine a square hole, that square hole has a side of 1.27 millimeters. Yeah, the wire diameter in millimeters is 0.4064, and I spaced them out and I arranged them so that it's like real life, and I used that to have a more proper representation of when I did the volume of the water. So right now the water as is, let me show you. I'm going to take away the buffer chamber. See, the water takes the shape of of everything else. So the volume of the water, I calculated that. I do like a finite element analysis, and it is 5,141 cubic millimeters, which is a little over 5 millimeters. So, you know, the water has to come just up to that point. So it'll, you know, so usually the users put a little bit over, but, you know, it's fine. Okay. Again, in terms of the buffer chamber, the way the buffer chamber will mold is it puts up here, it does like a cascading fountain, it flows up, and then it pushes up against this seal of the mold and creates a very strong point right here at the end, which is perfect because you need that strength to seal properly against the O-ring. And here, so when it's this cutoff point of the plastic, it varies. So I put it a little bit of, I put it above so that this flat face on the buffer chamber, it's you can lay it down flat and you don't have to worry about this nozzle cutoff point. I didn't really think enough about this version of the mold. I think it's gonna have to mold through some point on the bottom cavity. So this mold, I think it's gonna, the injection mold should pop up somewhere on this face. So the mold, the plastic is injected through this mold, and then it flows up uniformly to the top. Therefore, you'll have a clean at the lip. It'll form completely here, and it'll be a little messy on this face, but technically this face is getting heated up anyways so that the mesh could stick, and it's fine. The way I so of course the mesh is comprised of a whole bunch of wires. So what I did was, because I didn't want to, you know, I wanted to move this around as one piece, I superficially just put this ring around it so that I could just make it one piece. But obviously this ring is not there. It's just for modeling purposes, so I could move this around as one piece. I didn't want on the side, I didn't want 100 wires. I just wanted mesh as one piece. So that's why that ring is there, but in reality it's not there. So again, that's the buffer chamber. This thread looks a little weird because I essentially, it's two threads. It's double threaded so that it'll catch and lock in really fast and quick, just like this top thread. This top thread is very quick with the cap, if you notice, because it's two separate helixes. So I did the same trick there. I'm going to put the thread here so that on the buffer chamber so it could thread into the plate. Overall, that's a rough overview of version 12, which I hope finally is ready for testing. Thank you.